What's up and welcome back. Thanks for clicking on my face, taking a risk on me, joining my channel. I'm John Stark from MacMovieGuy.com. I'm a blind film critic, and we're going to talk about something that's on Broadway HD. It's a musical. It's called John and Jen. I like to review the content that's on Broadway HD because they don't like to provide audio description, and the only way that anybody's ever going to provide it is if I point out the fact that they don't have it over and over and over. Hopefully one day I'll have more followers and it'll matter, but I don't think they're paying attention to somebody with my level. But again, advocacy starts somewhere, right? Anyway, John and Jen is a musical. I like musicals. Love musicals. It's written by Andrew Lippa. It's an Andrew Lippa musical. This is actually, though, the taped version of, I want to say, I don't want to say it's a direct revival. It's a reimagining revival. Reimagining. I don't know. I'm trying to merge those two words together. It just sounds like I'm having a stroke. I don't know. We did it with like requel. Like, how do you do a reimagining a revival? We need a word for that. Somebody come up with that. Anyway, it's, I guess to freshen up the score, freshen up the book, he brought Jason Robert Brown in, and totally the right call. I mean, like, wow. Like, those are two of the best composers that we have working right now, working together. Just such a solid choice. So Jason Robert Brown came in, punched it up. They moved up the whole plot and story. I mean, literally to the point where the pandemic is included in the plot. So that we have totally shifted John and Jen. For anybody who's like, is this different? It is different. They mentioned the pandemic, and I know John and Jen is older than the pandemic, so I can't exactly remember now when they say it takes place. I remember the whole post 9/11 thing, and John wanting to sign up to fight, but I knew it lasted. It fell somewhere between 2001 and I think it was at least before 2013, 14, right? Maybe somewhere around 2010, 2008, 2009, somewhere around in there. That's my guess. I should have looked it up, but I didn't. It's a really nice musical. It's only got two people in it, and we open up with Jen, who we find out is the older sister to John. And we start out sort of at the beginning of John's life, and we work our way forward. And there's something that sort of happens in the middle that switches the story and switches the plot. I'm not revealing that or switching that around for you. If you're a fan of John and Jen the musical, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And we move forward, and the story continues with John and Jen. It's always just John and Jen. So, very interesting way that the story is told. It's almost entirely through music. Even when they're speaking on top of music, scored music. There are parts of this that actually sound really like Jason Robert Brown, by the way. There are a couple times where some of the like little themes, I'm like, well, that feels like I heard that in a JRB musical. So I think he came along and added just a little, some little smidges there and there where I could tell. I was like, that's not Lippa. That's Brown. I feel like that sounds a lot like the last 5 years to me. But it's a nice story. I like the musical. I like the music. It's funny because I always feel like this is the poor man's last 5 years. Like last 5 years seems to be more popular in the music theater community. More people pull solos from that show to do in their auditions. I never really see anybody audition with John and Jen. There's plenty of material here, especially for cuts, because there are a lot of duets where they sing, but one of the characters sings for definitely 16 or 32 bars. So you could definitely do a cut of one of the songs, even as a duet. So, but it doesn't have any audio description. And I know John and Jen, a lot like the last 5 years, is usually presented very minimalist, which is why, again, I really do choose the shows on Broadway HD so I can attack them all from different angles, because I don't want people to think that I'm just here beating Broadway HD to a pulp and saying that everything on their side is unwatchable without audio description, or that you should not try to watch it without audio description. And I have given some of their stuff a grade, and I have given some of their stuff unwatchable. It's been a mixed bag. With John and Jen, this happens to be a very specific version of the show, and as far as I've known John and Jen, I've known it to be a little bit like the last 5 years, where they keep the set limited. So there's nothing a whole lot to describe. There also aren't a whole lot of times to interject. They kind of keep going. Are a couple maybe breaks in the music where it's just score and nobody is singing, but they really don't like the flow to stop. I didn't realize this musical doesn't have an intermission. It falls under 2 hours and they just go the whole way through. I actually thought when we transitioned in the middle that we had an intermission. I didn't realize, because I've never actually sat down to see a production of John and Jen start to finish the whole way through. I mean, there's some stuff like on YouTube and stuff, but that's not like really sitting down and watching John. Nobody seems to do it. It's just, I mean, it feels like it's so easy to do, but then people, instead of doing John and Jen, they just do the last 5 years. It's just okay. I don't know. I didn't realize I liked this musical as much as I did. As far as this production of it, this is tough, because from what I've listened to before, I feel like Jason Robert Brown did punch up the music a little bit, and it is more interesting, and I like how they moved it forward and made it more relevant and made it feel like it's right now, like it's happening today, instead of happening, a couple years ago, where things start feeling dated and it starts becoming like you're trying to connect to somebody who was in a different time period. Rent is starting to feel a little dated. It's in a weird place in history, and I think rent heads are sort of dying out as a population. So John and Jen has given itself new life. It feels like it has a new energy to it. The problem is that I thought the guy did a nice job. He was fine. The problem is that the original cast recording is Carolee Carmello, and I apologize to this lady, because there were some moments where I thought she was fantastic. There were some times where she slid into her notes, and I was like, that's really lazy. But mostly, what I didn't like about her was that there was no attempt at all at differentiating her age. She felt like she was the same character and same level the entire show. Even though she ages from beginning to end, even though the show, because it progresses through life from the time that her brother is born, so she starts out as a young girl. She never acts like it. She always acts like she's a grown-ass adult the whole show. Meanwhile, you can actually tell that the guy is trying to change his voice and the energy that he brings to his performance to make it feel like he is a little boy, that he is, a preteen, that he is a teenager, that he's a grown man now, all of those things. There's a progression to his character, whereas to her, there isn't. She's just the same fucking thing the whole show. It's just the whole thing. It's just one character. I was like, God, how are you incapable of singing that way? Are you worried that it's going to affect your voice? You're already sliding into notes. You know, we can forgive a lot if you're acting. You know, a lot of those vocal imperfections that people have where they miss a note or they slide into the pitch or whatever, if you're doing great character work on stage, a lot of that is forgivable. If you're just there to sing, if they're like, well, we like your voice, it's pretty, that's all we need, then it better damn well be pretty. Like, you can't be both. You can't, like, miss some notes, and you can't also, like, you can't also not be a good actor. Like, you have to be able to maintain both. And I'm not saying she's not a good actor, because there's some stuff here that she's fantastic in, because she plays it like an adult. So when you get to the stuff that is more adulty, fantastic. It's a fantastic performance. But in the end, in the beginning, when she's trying to still be, you know, like a little bit older than her brother, it's like she has no ability to be that character. She doesn't understand how to be anything younger than what age she is in the moment. She is whatever age she is, and she will always be that age. She has no range in this. And I might have been able to accept that as like a we're pretending type thing if he wasn't doing the opposite. He's the one that's doing all of the aging and the up and down. So it's very weird that we're passing time through him but not through her. That she's just the same the whole show. It's very odd. It like blew my mind, because I was really enjoying the show, but I was like, what is up? And I was like, I haven't really been able to grade a musical based on performances before, because I've kind of just loved everything. I've kind of just been like, oh, I'm so glad to be here. This is a great experience. And usually it's like the top people that are being presented to me for the most part. Or it's something like when I reviewed First Date, and I'm like, I'm not, these people are doing this from their bedrooms. I'm not criticizing this pandemic musical. This is not happening. But now I can actually, this is a staged production. They hired her, they paid her, so I will criticize her. Learn to act. Sorry. I think she's like an Olivier-nominated actress. I don't know. What would her Peter Pan be like? That's a female role. I think she'd be like the worst Peter Pan in the world, because she has no idea how to be a little kid. Like, she can't bring that humor, that anything. Like, she can't figure out how to de-age herself. It's very odd. It's very odd to see that contrast too, because to see one person who's doing such a great job of it, and then the other person is doing like nothing. Anyway, I like the music. The funny thing about John and Jen is that I don't think that there is like one standout song to me. I think like every song is about evenly matched. Every song feels like it's like a B+ A- song. Like, it's like right there. There isn't that like one defying gravity moment in this show. I think that's what John and Jen has always lacked, is that the music is so consistent across the show where there isn't like a throwaway song either, which is really good. There isn't like a song where you're like, oh, what is this? Because Wicked, while it does have Defying Gravity and has many other songs that come really close, it also has Wonderful, which is atrocious. And I said it. Sorry, Wicked fans, but that song is awful. Oz's song is terrible. We gave a solo to the wrong person. And I've always hated Wonderful. I think it's a terrible song. So, #Wonderful is awful. This has pretty much all the songs are like the same. They're all good, just like the whole way through. The musical moves pretty quickly because they never stop singing. They're always, and when they are, when they're speaking within like the context of a song, because the music is still playing underneath them. So it's always going. It always has momentum to it. So it does get kind of emotional as relationships do over the course of time. I don't want to reveal too much about the show because I don't think a lot of people know John and Jen. And I am going to actually go ahead and say, even though this doesn't have audio description, there's a uniqueness to this, and I haven't been able to find a specific cast recording. I don't know what the plans are for this production, if there are plans to put it on Broadway. This is like a West End revival of it. I don't know what the plans are, but it sounded different enough to me from the original cast recording that even though I think Carolee Carmello is a better Jen, I liked what Jason Robert Brown brought and freshened up with this score, and how they moved the plot so that it takes place closer to today than it did previously. And that is something that I appreciate about this show. Plus, there are a lot of reprises and stuff that are really good that are not included on the original Broadway cast album. So, yeah, I'm actually gonna give this a grade and say there are enough reasons why I could give to watch this. I didn't think that would be the case because this is very sort of easy song cycle. Kind of felt like something that you could just listen to the cast album, but the guy's really good and he's delivering a performance, an actual like consistent performance all the way through the show. She's good in some songs when she's age appropriate, and the rest of the time but it's mostly what Jason Robert Brown kind of helped freshen up the musical with. And I'm not really sure there is a record, not one that I can seem to find. You know, we all have a streaming service, like a music streaming service that we use. On mine, it doesn't seem to have. But then again, there are some musicals it doesn't even acknowledge exist. I'm like, I think this has a cast album, but okay, guess it's not on my service then. So I don't know. I'm gonna go with a grade for this. I still think it's a great show. It was a great show before. They just made it better. However, I can't give it. I want to give it a full A, but damn it, Jen. I needed you to bring more range to your character, and this is not happening. So she's a little bit of a distraction from me being able to totally enjoy the show. So we're gonna knock it a little bit. I'm gonna give John and Jen an A-. I don't really know I don't know how involved they've decided to make or not make the tech, but I feel like if I'd gotten the audio description and found out that it's two people standing on stage with no set, I would have just been like, okay. You know, like, what, like, what's the point? Like, what am I doing here? So that's very much what, and their costumes don't really matter because they're just playing themselves. They don't really have time to leave the stage, too. There cannot be costume changes in this show because there really isn't time for them to have a costume change. So I don't know. It's very weird. Maybe there's like one costume change in the show. But I don't know how many changes. I don't know what could be filled in the audio description, and there aren't many times where they're not singing. So I don't even know where it would fill in. You would get a description at the beginning, and then the musical would go, and then you'd be done. So I don't know. There might be like one or two times to interject, but I don't see a whole lot of potential for audio description with the way that this show is structured. So that's why I went ahead and gave it a grade. Anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I will go ahead and tell you that I do have a website, MacTheMovieGuy.com, and you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Threads at MacTheMovieGuy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what has audio description and where you can watch it. And you can go to the ADNA.org. That's the ADNA.org. And it'll let you know who's narrating your favorite films and television series. That's it for me today. I will watch something else, probably from Broadway HD at some point, and see you guys on the other side.